guys, welcome. We're going to paint the mid-century modern Merry Christmas card design. I have it on a canvas panel. You can of course use it as a painting, but I did it as a copy of an illustrated Christmas card I made years ago, and I just love the mid-century vibe. And so the elongated Siamese cat, the colors all have a vintagey feel to them. I hope you enjoy painting it as much as I do. Hi guys, welcome to the vintage mid-century looking painting. This is originally an illustration that I did for a Christmas card, but I thought it would be fun to revisit it and paint it as a painting, but you could also use it as a Christmas card design. I love everything mid-century, so I kind of picked a little bit of a mid-century color palette. So I've got some pinks here, lime green, this light blue. It's a pretty limited palette that we're going to paint, and I'm going to get started with the background. So I'm using Dragon Fruit, Deco Art Dragon Fruit. It's a nice pink. I use it for a lot of things. I may lighten it a little bit with some buttermilk or white. I like the way buttermilk sometimes adds a softer effect, and that's sort of what I'm going for here. The tree is going to be, I'm going to mix up a little bit of these colors here and see. I want more of a, this is a black forest green, but I want more of a blue green. So maybe I'll grab a little of my phthalo green. So I'm going to just mix up these colors to see what we get, and for the tree and the packages. So you can see in the, like with the limited color palette, the colors of the packages the kitty cat's sitting on are the colors that we've used in the tree. I love Siamese cat, and I love that whole mid-century vibe of those ceramic Siamese cats you used to see with the elongated necks and whatnot. You could change it up and put it any kind of cat you want. If you have a particular cat that you want to paint, just paint the colors in. You could just do little stripes. You could do it however you'd like, really, as you know when we do a lot of our paintings. I'm going to paint the dragon fruit in the background. I'm going to sponge in a border. You could paint the whole background dragon fruit. I'm going to sponge in that border like I did for my Christmas card. Try a little gold on the edge. So I may need another palette when I'm doing some of the background work. So I'm going to pull that over. And let's jump in and get started. So like I said, it's the dragon fruit, Americana dragon fruit. You can mix this color up from what you have for pinks and reds and things. I'm going to use a big flat brush. I'm going to try to cover some of this outlying area, and then I'll get a little closer with a smaller brush. So let me just jump right in here. And I think I wanted to have it a little lighter than this shade. I'm just going to take a look. I'm not going to go right to the edges because I am going to go and do a little bit of a lighter edge. I do want to lighten this up a little bit. So I'm going to take a little of that buttermilk right into, I just like that is a little bit softer looking. So let's do that. We'll mix our buttermilk with our dragon fruit as we go. And I'm mixing this as I go and blending it in. If you'd like, you could mix a little pile of paint up, get the shade you like and just use that. I sometimes like the way I can go in and get a little texture in that background. I don't want too much. I don't want to take away from the design, but I don't mind a little texture. So why don't we just get in the big areas that we can get with this brush. It looks like it's going to be great for one coat. And something like this package down here, I can certainly just go right around with the big brush. I did not put the writing on yet, the Merry Christmas. You can put that on or not, but I'm just going to trace it on afterwards when I'm ready. And so I'm going to just get, like I said, the bigger areas that I need to. Working fairly quickly. Oh, I kind of obscured, I kind of lost my pattern there a little bit for that package, but I'll just paint that in as we get to it. And you can see how it's a little different, a little lighter here, a little darker here. I just going to go in and just kind of, I still have time to play with it. It's still a little wet. So I'm just going to get that edge in. I mean, that filled in, but I want to get a little of this edge in now while that's wet. So I'm going to just take that same brush, but I'm just going to dry the paint off. So I'm not going to rinse it. I'm just going to try drying it off. I'm going to try just going into the buttermilk and going along the edge to get a little lighter edge, which I will lighten up even further with some white. But I really want to do this while it's still a little wet. So as I start to pick up too much pink, I'll just keep this paper towel here and I went awfully close to the edge there. So I want to get just some of the buttermilk along the edges. Then I can come in and blend in a minute. I'm working real fast. If you find your paint's drying and you can't, just work in a section at a time if you'd like. That's okay too. I maybe should have been a little more mindful of leaving more space around the edge. Instead of that way I wouldn't be picking up all this pink, but it's okay. Again, I'll just keep wiping that off. Really got a dry brush there, and I want to just kind of soften where I blended. I brought out a sponge. I thought maybe I would sponge the edge on. There's a thought too. Let's just see what we come up with here. You can see I'm wiping the edge side with the right side of the brush a little bit because I don't want to use all the sides because I'll bring more pink in. So I'm just kind of going down that side, keeping that lighter on that side just to sort of save some of that light. And I'm just trying to blend it softly while it's still a little wet. And just again, just drying off this paint. You could certainly take a dry brush if you wanted to and soften it. But I'm just wanting a little nice blend. And I'm going to keep wiping off, but when I pick up too much color. So here I've picked up a little bit too much pink, then I'll wipe it off and just soften, bringing that in. A little something in my canvas there. And I'm going to go with some white on the tippy, just the very tippy top edges. And I'm just softening. You can soften as much as you like. You can leave it a little rougher and brush strokier. It's whatever you like the look of. You can just sort of back up from your painting here and dry that off. Let's try a little white there. Let's just see. I might just do a little white coming in. I'm going to get a new paper towel. I've kind of saturated that. A little bit of white just on the edges. I think I will come in and try the sponge technique too. Let's try that. It's kind of fun to explore different techniques, different textures, backgrounds. It's really a fun place to play with some texture. And we are going to put a little gold on the edge anyway, so it's not going to be like this has to be perfect. I just want to get a little lighter there. Okay, I'll stick that in the water. So I've got a couple of sponges here. I've got this little round one, I've got this more natural sponge, and I might do that. I might like that little edge. I'm kind of, again, trying to replicate my illustration, which I will put a picture out as well for you guys. And I just had a little bit of a rough edge. I was kind of going for that card design where you would find a little texture on the cards and some metallic gold. In the card making process, it's added on later, and it's kind of a cool look. And I'm just sort of replicating it a little bit with my paints because I'm not going to use any mediums or anything like that. So I like that, but let me just try for fun how it would be with this sponge. That gives me a nicer, thicker edge. I kind of like the combination of both of them. I'm trying to do this, so I'm just gonna, usually I move my painting around, and you know that, and I will, but for now, I just wanted to kind of go right along without having to just touch those rough edges. I do like that look. You could do this with a scraggly brush, probably. And let's just soften. I don't want it to look like a pattern from the sponge, though. I didn't want it to come in this far. Got a little bit there, a few little dots there. This is still a little wet, so I am able to sort of soften that. I was trying to stay away from a scalloped edge like that. Now that is something that you could, if you did it evenly all the way along, might be a cool look, but that's not what I was after here, so when I see that scallop, I'm kind of breaking that up a little bit. And again, this we're not going to see that much because we're going to try to put some gold on there, and I like that texture. I'm putting this on again just a little bit for to maybe, with the paint being a little thicker, it might add a little texture. So there we go. That's that. I'm going to rinse those out afterwards. Don't wait too long because that paint dries on those sponges. So I think I'll just stick it in some of the water over here. Okay, so now we just need to get in a little closer to our elements. I'm going to a smaller brush, like I said, for that. So maybe just you can go to a smaller flat of some sort. Try this one. I'm going to go right into this paint that I was sort of mixing. And I'm going, oh, it's very messy, so I've got, let me just clean this up a little bit so I am not sticking my arm in it. There we are. It should be a little better. It's going to take a little to dry because that paint's kind of a little thick. Come back over here. Okay, so we're just going to go around the best we can. And again, some of these areas might need a smaller brush. I'm going to do what I can with this size. Around that tail. And around those packages. I didn't trace in on the bows because those we will paint after. And I've got to get my shape back. I've got this, let's see if I can just do this. I painted that's here. And you know what I'm missing is a line. A line from this. This is a package here and here. And then this one goes just up here. It's just at an angle. I thought it kind of made a nice design. So there, I put that back in just so I know where I'm going here. And if I need to, I'll just sort of blend that out a little bit. Again, I like a little texture in this background. And I'll get a littler brush for some of the areas that I need to. She's got a little collar around her neck. Little ears there, in between the ears. These are that shape of those mid-century cats. They have those funny almond-shaped heads. And you do see a lot of Siamese cats from that era, ceramic ones and paintings and different things. So you can see what my outline is. I'm not too worried about that because I'm just going to sort of, like I said, brush it in. We're going to put a little shadow around them as well. So it's not a big deal if it's not perfectly blended. And we'll just go around those packages. Can't really see what I've got going on here. Let me put it right side up. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. This is making it look like it's a 3D box, but it's really just the angle of this package because this is another package here. And that was what was confusing me. I'm sometimes not the best tracer. I should be a little more careful maybe so I know what I'm doing here, but I usually can eyeball it pretty good. I'm liking that we don't have to do extra coats on this background. Maybe a little darker over here. It's looking like it needs a second coat, but it's just because the paint's a little lighter. Okay, we'll come back and do the inside where the tail is. We've got around our packages pretty well here. My paint's a little dry. I'm going to add a little touch of water to it. And if you don't want to keep the limited palette, you could use the colors that you like. If you want to personalize it, you could put little tags hanging off of the presents that could have a name, a little tiny name on them. Now, the background of the tree, the darker green, is going to be in, I'm going to put it in kind of like a wash a little bit so that we can see the other shapes. A lot of times we would paint the whole tree and then paint our things on top. But this is a little different technique. So let's just get around the best we can. So we've got this little vintagey tree topper here. I'm getting a little dark again. Get back closer to the color I had mixed up to begin with. I just wanted to get this little one outlined at the top first. These don't have to be the perfect shape. We can shape them as we're painting them, so don't worry about that. I've got my package down here, and then the edges of the tree is going to be a little softer, or a little, you know, I'm just going to go around them like this, just so we know where they are. Texture on top that'll really blend all this if it's not perfect anyway. So like I said, let's not worry about too much. I'm trying to match the color a little bit, but I'm not gonna worry too much. That's close enough. And we'll do the other side now. That in close to the tree. Now I can kind of get a little bit of the color from the background there. It's kind of almost, when I mix that dragon fruit pink with the buttermilk, it gives me almost like a salmony pink color, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's great. I know it looks a little wonky where we went around the edges, but like I said, I'm gonna dry brush a little bit of a lighter color on there. When I did the illustration, I did it in Procreate, which I love for designing and illustrating, and I can use lots of techniques in there, like making this look like it's a fabric background, putting a little overlay on it or something. So it's not gonna look exactly like the illustration, but I can give it a little texture. So I'm going to actually just grab my other palette so I have room here. And I don't want to go straight with the buttermilk because it will just stand out too much. So I need something that's just a slightly lighter than that shade. And until I put it on there, it will be hard to tell if it's going to work. And I'm just going to lightly, using the texture of the canvas, getting that, it's almost like it's painted on linen, a kind of a linen texture. Again, I'm trying to recreate a little bit of my illustration, but can you see, you dry brush that lighter color on, and because it's on a canvas board here, or canvas, I do like the canvas boards when I'm doing illustration work like this more. It's such a stiffer, it's not bouncing, it's just giving me a nice hard surface that I can get these techniques on. I think I'll need a little more buttermilk. We'll put it right here. And it's pretty dry, you know, it's not too much paint, because if I have too much paint, it's painting, and it's going into the little nooks and crannies of the canvas. And I kind of want to just glide it across the top, and I'm going to go back and forth each way a little bit. So let's do up and down, vertical first. It's so light, don't worry about going right over the elements. Again, don't worry about it being perfect. We're going to do a little shadow around some of the elements. A little wash, a little darker wash. So now I'm just going to go back and go this direction a little bit. And oops, I picked up some of my white there. I'll just pick that up a little bit. Not a big deal. It's not straight buttermilk, but I am putting a little pink in there. Kind of see my smudge there a little bit, but we can't worry about every little bit. And there, that's a little texture that I kind of like for the background. Get a little light there. If it is a little heavy like that, we'll just let that dry, and I can just take a little pink and dry brush over it later. I want to hold this up a little bit just to see what it's kind of coming out like. All right, a little tiny bit more here where I got a little dark. Okay, let's just leave it because I get to be too fussy, and I tell you guys not to be too fussy. And then sometimes I am going back and forth and doing too much as well. All right, so now I need a little darker color. I pulled out, what other colors I pulled out? I pulled out a joyful pink. I pulled out, I love this red violet. I just want a little darker color to shade with. And I know we can mix our maroon with a red and a black. And if you have your quinacridone, you can mix that with a little Payne's Gray and get a darker shade. I kind of want to keep it on the plum side a little bit. So I'm gonna test these. I'm gonna see if this is dark enough, and if not, I have the red violet to add to it. And just going to, when I did my illustration, I did it with a airbrush kind of a idea when I was doing it in Procreate. So I'm gonna try it as a little wash with just water on my brush. Let's just take a little of that. I'm gonna take a little bit on the corner, and I'm just patting it out so that the paint spreads with the side loading that we do a lot of times. Oh, you know what? Let me just fill in my little kitty cat tail first. There. Sorry about that. That's a little dark. Mix a little more of the buttermilk in there. Tail is very dark, so if it's not perfectly outlined, the dark color will come right in there and cover that. We just want to get that little bit of pink in there. There we are. So since I just did that, I don't want to highlight, put my shadow up there yet, but I could probably go down. Oh, and this is plenty dark enough. Yeah, this is plenty dark enough. I'm going to just go around the edges of my packages a bit. And I did also, again, thinking this is kind of 3D-ish. This is actually like this. So let me let that dry before I continue on with my shadow. And I'm just going to go down, just going to do around the elements. So around the tree, around the packages. You can see where that shadow isn't very, it doesn't bleed out too much. So I just want to go back, reload some of that Joyful Pink and just bring it out so I have a little wider shadow. And I'm just going in there close to my tree. Yeah, I do like the way that looks in the background. And put this package down here. Underneath that tree. I might soften it with a little of the pink after on top. When I'm starting and I feel like I've lost the paint that's on there, I just re-wet the brush. I pat it off of my paper towel, take a little more, but then always kind of bring it on your palette to blend. Okay, we'll get over to this side. Sometimes I can just pick up the paint like that. Didn't blend as much as I'd like. I think I need to reload my brush. So I'll do that. Pat it out again. Let's go over here. And this side is a kitty. And a smaller brush in little areas if you need to. This is a little wet still, I think, from just filling that in. But I think it will be okay. Okay. This is starting to dry, so I'm not putting my hand in it so much. And then we will see how the metallic gold goes on there later. Okay, so I think we'll work on the tree and then work on the packages and then the kitty cat. So the tree, I want to get a kind of a sprucey green, but keeping it, again, toned down a little bit so it goes with this softer palette. And I'm going to go with a smaller square brush and just, I know it's a little tedious, but it'll be nice to get it, just something behind. And these little shapes we're going to paint in that lighter green. So let me just experiment a little bit and see. That is the black forest green, the Deco Art. I didn't know if it would be blue-green enough, but I think it is okay that way. So that's, I don't, might not need that phthalo. I'm thinning it down as I go, and I'm just going to start to go in between these little kind of leaf shapes that I've put on there. I kind of want to leave those roughly so we can come on and sort of know where they are. So it doesn't have to be a perfect, go around them perfect, kind of give an idea, and then we'll kind of paint them in. I've got a little hair from my brush or something here. Let's see, a dry brush will probably remove that. Let's see what we've got here. Just want to get that off there. Don't know where that came from. Anyhow. All right, so we're using a wash. That way we can kind of see some of our lines. I don't want it to be too solid. It would be a lot to paint around all of those just in a solid green. And we can come back. Oh, it didn't lift it, did it? And darken up some of these areas once we know where all the other decorations and things on the tree are. A little more water when you need it. So we're going around these little leaf shapes. We're also going around any of the little ornaments. They are just little vintagey looking ornaments in those shapes you remember. And again, it's more of a decorative, illustrative looking design more than a real tree. And again, it goes to show you that everything doesn't have to look like an exact real replica of what you're striving for. It doesn't have to look like a perfect real Christmas tree. This is just a little more of a vintage one. It would be really fun actually to paint one of those silver tinsel trees. I've always wanted to find one of those. My uncle had one when we were growing up, and they're very hard to find now because everybody wants them, but oh gosh, they're so cool. With the little color wheel. Really memories of those 50s and 60s Christmases. So you can see I went around the ornament, but I didn't struggle with a little brush to get it perfect. Whatever you're comfortable, whatever way you're comfortable working, you can take more time. I know I'm going to come back and sort of clean them up as I'm painting. I just need something to cover the white of the canvas behind my ornaments and behind these little leaf shapes. Got a little dark, so I'll just spread it around into the other areas. In my illustration, it is kind of dark, but that's because when I'm designing it that way, I don't have to worry about losing all these little bits. I can just do them on different layers. I can do the tree on one layer, painting it all green, skip to the next layer and add these little bits, and then the ornaments and so on different layers, which is kind of cool, because if you don't like the way something looks, you can shut the layer off and look at it that way. If you have a desire to learn that, I have an iPad Pro. It's old. I use it to design many years ago, but it still works, so I keep it. But it has come out, the Procreate program has come even a long way from when I started, and it's very inexpensive. You can download it. I think it's about $13 or $14, one-time fee, and you can do everything on that. Pretty much everything that you would need to, use Photoshop for, Illustrator, all those Adobe programs, which got a little pricey because they were charging you monthly subscriptions after a while. Before you used to buy it and you'd own it, but and it's a lot, unless you're working in it a lot, to learn the program's a little harder. But the Procreate, I picked up by YouTube tutorials and that sort of thing. So it really is fun to play around with, and not expensive, which is nice. So you would just need an iPad and an Apple Pencil that would go with that, and it's fun, like I said, just to take tutorials and learn techniques and design. It's great for designing paintings. It's great for me for making your tracers for your paintings. But it is fun to play around and design things too. So I'm just getting the bottom of that tree. I think this goes behind the package. I think I need to come down a little more here. And that's basically what I want. So just take a little of the color, a little less water, and kind of drop it in. This is mostly all wet still. So now I can just kind of drop it in a little heavier in between. And then we're going to go and paint in our little leaf shapes. And some of my ornaments got a little lost, but we'll find those as we go. And I'm going to get a little darker down here. And I'll worry about that little line and shading under here afterwards. Okay. So now I'm going to paint in the little leaf shapes, and I want to keep them sort of similar to this. So I'm thinking if I mix this black forest with some of my buttermilk, it might be the color I need. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of like a grayy green. And let's just see if it's going to pop enough. If not, we can make the background a little darker. Let me just plug my computer in here before I lose my battery. Okay, that's not, hang on, I'm just gonna make sure that's plugged in. I don't wanna, my reference is on the computer there, so I have to, oh, yeah, the plug was out a little bit on the other end. I think I'm going to need to do a little darker on my tree before I do those, because they're very close in tone. Let me go back to just the black forest. I just wanted to avoid having to do around every little thing, but I can go in a little bit and just darken it. Just getting it a little darker where I have that light so that my little leaf shapes will pop. I was trying to avoid having to paint the whole tree and then have to trace the design on again. And this doesn't take too long. It'll be a nice effect, I think. Oops, I went into my phthalo green there, and I could tell right away that that was just a little bit too brilliant, where we're trying to keep a more subdued palette here. I can drop a little bit of the black forest on top of that when that dries a bit. That will help with this dark area down here too. There, that gives us just a little bit more depth in there. And now I'll go back to the little color that I mixed. Again, this is just buttermilk and the black forest that we were using. Let's give myself a clean place to work here. Black forest, buttermilk. Get it a little bit on the lighter side so it does have a little contrast. And these are just these little shapes. Almost looks like fingers. And I'm just looking at my reference photo, and they extend out over the tree. And I'm just looking again, I know where I left a little bit of a space where they're going to really go. And they could be a little free form. You could just eyeball those in. I know I have a little ornament over here I kind of lost. Right in about here somewhere, that little blue ornament's gonna go. I had a little bit of one of these peeking out there. I still have that annoying little hair. Let's see, I get it. Isn't that sometimes a pain in the neck? Okay. I keep adding the buttermilk as I go. I want to keep it again on this little lighter shade. And I just come in from the other side just to make a little bit of a better shape. Oh, I got some dark mixed in there somehow. I'll just go along doing this. See how I'm sort of finding a little bit of a where I went around best I could and just getting in there and making these little shapes. All right, where are we down here? This is a big one that was sticking out there. Some I'm not sure what's what is there, so I'm going to just refer to mine. There's a little ornament in here, and actually this is just a little bigger. It's a little bigger there. That's that. Maybe make a little finger come out there a little better. Okay. And you know, at these areas when we're doing our class, if once you get started, you could always just jump ahead and do them all without having to watch. You can just put the video on a little bit faster speed or something. And we are getting there. They actually get a little bigger as they get further down. I started a little smaller and they get a little bigger. And bringing them out over this dark area, I think, is really makes them show up a little bit. That's kind of cool. This one really grew. Now, you know what? This was 2 of them on the original illustration, but that's okay. And again, I like to make them come off the edge of the tree. Gives it a cool shape. And we'll finish up with these few. This one's around an ornament, so I'll just make that little one go around. Okay, there we go. And we've got one more down here. See how I kind of make the shape first, and then I like to go from the tip and bring them in, because then it rounds off that leaf shape a little bit. Again, that's just the way I did them. It doesn't mean you have to do them that way. You can do them any way you like. I'm just kind of looking at them now, but it needs a little second coat, a little more pigment. And now I'm going to, I know where they are, I know where the background of the tree is. I can easily go in now and darken up, and so making those pop a little bit more. I might sketch in my ornaments now. I didn't sketch in with a little is a little beaded garland there. So okay, so let me do that. A little bit of a second coat in some places. And now I'm going to just go ahead and sketch on where I know my little ornaments are going to go. So I have a little bell up here that I need to make this come out a little more. I want that to come out a little. There's going to be a little bell here, so I need that branch to come out a little more. So let's go down the line here. So we have a bell here, which I've completely painted over. Easy little shapes though. This we've got here still. This is those cool ornament shapes. And I'm going to go and put a bell here. Get that one in there. This is that little shape that comes down to the long point. Same here. This one is one of these little cool shapes. I'll shape it a little better when I'm painting them. You will probably trace on much more neater than I did. There's a little bell over here. I'll get it over by the empty spot more. I put one of these little shapes there. There. We have a bell over here. This is kind of empty. I think I'm going to put something here. Do I want to? No, because we're going to put the beaded garland along there. So I'm going to just fill that in a little with the dark. Okay, so I know where my ornaments are going to go. I'm going to go back into that wash of black forest. And I can go a little darker. And if I need to touch up any of my little shapes here, I can. This is more of a wash. I'm just putting in this dark wash. If I have some little white spots to cover up. Just to set those out a little bit more. So I have little white areas that are kind of bothering me there. This I want to come out a little further. This is that where I put the phthalo blue, my mistake. I'll get that a little more greeny. A little bit of the whites over here. You can just get that more like the green behind. I'm just kind of visualizing getting that tree shape a little better. Come out a little further here. Oh, look what I've done. I put my hand somewhere and kind of move that around. Okay, we can get the gold over there. Oops, I need to clean that brush off. I picked up a little of the lime green then. Okay. These two are sort of close here. I'm going to give a little space between them. Let's see, this really grew. This one really grew a bit, and it was actually originally two, so let me... And I'll have this better on the tracer. I'm kind of painting this, and then I'm going to do a final tracing for you guys, so you won't have to worry about trying to change all these little bits and pieces. heavy. Separate these a little. Oh, there isn't going to be a little ornament there, so let's give ourselves some space between some of these things. All right, I'm going to adjust this one little finger on this one here. Okay, so then I'm going to get a really dark green, darker than what we have there. I'm going to get my finer, more of a little detail liner brush. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black in with that green just to get it real dark. I don't want it to be black, but I want it to be dark, a little darker shade. Thinning it out a bit so it just flows easier. And what I did is I just did an outline on some of the leaves. I did it down the right side. And then on the little sides here. That's very dark. I'm going to go a little bit more green in that mixture. So it's just down the right sides of the little fingers. Got them a little confused there, but less black. It's showing up nicely. I thought I would have to go real dark to get it to show up. That's a little dark. I could get a little green over that. Okay. Looks like I'm sort of skipping around. I guess I just want one side of these done. I guess it doesn't matter if it's the right or the left. Just a little decorative touch, really. No rhyme or reason as if it was a real object. I was doing more design sense here. Okay, almost done with these little marks. Some of them are coming out still a little dark. I'm going to rinse my brush and just soften in some of them that are a little dark. I think if I just take a little bit of the lighter mixture, I just don't want them to jump out be that harsh. So I'm just taking a little bit of the lighter mixture with some green, softening that a bit. Any of them that came out a little harsh. See the difference? It's just softened a little bit. If I squint and look and something really jumps out at me, I'll just soften it. Oh, that's a little too soft. We want it still to be a little darker. Okay, we're gonna let some of those dry. We can come back and if any of those are bothering us. Okay, let's put in our little ornaments. I'm just going to put a base color and then we can add a little bit of decoration to it, but it doesn't have to be too much. The little topper on the top is a darker. I'm going to go into the red violet for that. If I find it's too dark, I just add a touch of the joyful pink. So let's just get that. It's those pointy ornaments, tree toppers. And it's kind of got a little ball here, so maybe if we just make a circle there, and where it attaches to the tree. Make it just a little bigger. Okay, and then we have actually some of the packages of that color, and if we have that color out, we can certainly do the packages. Like I said, it's a kind of a limited palette, so I used what I use for color there, then I would use for a present. Little package here. There's the other ornaments on the tree are more the ochre and the blue and lime green. So we'll just get this package here done. This we probably need 2 coats. I can see it's a bit streaky. So we'll just let it dry and put a quick second coat. And it looked like this little one here. Okay, and this one. And it's easy enough to come back and do the second coat on that when it's dry. Okie dokie. Then we've got some of the little ornaments are in the deep ochre. And I'm just mixing that up with a little water because it's just been sitting out a little bit while we've been painting. So I just want to make sure I can thin that down a little bit. And the ornaments that are the shape, let's see if I can do it without putting my hand in it again. This double shape, so you've got a little bit of a line there. It's a circle. And it kind of has this little second area. And again, these will all be second coats probably. So we get the little point there. And it's got just like 2 little circles. It's like those old glass ornaments, Shiny Bright maybe, or I forget the name, but I wanted to do a painting maybe next Christmas, but just a big close-up of some of these antique vintage ornaments. That's always been intriguing to me as well. So I'm going to paint all of them that are like this in this color. So it's basically a little circle, and it comes down, and there's another kind of a circle and a little teardrop shape there. We've got 3 of those. We've got one over here too. We get a little silver metallic out just for the little caps on them. Hardly see them, but it might be fun to do them in silver, see how that works. And we'll wait till that dries for the second coat. We've got that light blue bells. I've got this Provence, what is it? Provence Sky, nice light blue deco art. you can just mix some of your phthalo with a little white, whatever blue you have with a little white to get a light blue. And I'm going to get a little white because I will need that as we go. Okay, so, and if it doesn't cover well, we'll add a little white just to give it that opaque coverage. So we have a little bell here. And actually that's covering pretty well because it's such a light blue, it already has some white in it. The ornaments are kind of small on the tree, then I just wanted them to be subtle. And we have a little bell down here. I'm painting that upside down. Actually, we can put the little clapper in there too. Might not need a second coat of these bells. And there's one over, where did I see you? Over here. These are a simple little bell shape, little clapper. Easy enough. Nice coverage. Okay, and then we have some pink, which I'm going to go into the dragon fruit that we had to begin with. And these are just, oh, I had mixed the bell right there. They're more of an oval shape, really. A little teardrop on the bottom. It's almost easy to paint them upside down. And right here. I keep wanting to go into the joyful pink. It's so close to the dragon fruit. I'll just touch up that little white spot afterwards. So we've got this one. I can see now how the color palette's working. I like that. Very limited, not every color under the sun. Okay, let's do that bell we forgot. Oh, and I did miss a pink one down below. So let's just get this little bell here in. I completely overlooked it. And go back and do that other pink ornament. Then we'll do the lime green for those longer ones. Okay, there we are. It's like a turnip shape. And lime green, which is sour apple. It's a Deco Art sour apple. You can also mix your primary yellow and your phthalo green and get a nice lime green with a touch of white, just to give it a little bit, like I said, a little more coverage. It's a little more opaque. And these are just these long shapes like that. Any little white spots left, we will come back and fill that in with the green. We only had 3 of those. Okay. Give that a minute to dry and we'll do a second coat. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to my black forest. I can fill in any little white spots. That's actually going to be the cover at the top of it, so that's okay, but I can always go back. And I think with more straight black forest, if I go in now and just do some line work, it just gives the little texture of the tree. And while I'm at it, I can touch up any little white spots I see. It's a little light around there. But it's nice to get a little bit of that texture of the fir tree. And around here I've got some white light spots I want to touch up. This is that same little area where I mistakenly put the phthalo green. Again, any little light or white spot I could correct now. And in any big empty areas, I'm getting that nice texture of tree. Little white spot there. I know I had some white spots around these lime green ornaments. And now I'm sort of just squinting, and if it looks a little light in any place, right here it's a little light still. Look at the shape of the tree. Does it need any little branches coming out to fill in? You can just go a few more little strokes down here, bottom of the tree. That's pretty watery. Let me get a little heavier paint. Just kind of evening that up a little bit. Yeah, with a little wash. I kind of like the washy look on the edges of those branches a bit. Okay, great. Second coat of our ornaments, just a quick little second coat. Again, I think the bells are fine. We'll go back and do a little second coat of our pink. Any reshaping you need to do, you can. Again, I think it's easier upside down for me. Oh, I went right around that light spot I meant to correct. Okay, I'm gonna do that right now before I forget again. Back into the black forest, and I just need to cover that little white spot. Okay. Second coat of the deep ochre. My paint's a bit thick, but it's covering nicely, so I'm going to use it. See a little white spot there. Actually, I just go over it with a little bit of yellow. And we'll do that lime green. That's the one that was really the streakiest. Put it on a little heavy this time too, to get it to cover. And that way these will take a little bit to dry. But let's do the second coat on the packages and on that tree topper there. My wash looks a little heavier at the top there, and what I don't like about it is it's looking like this color ran. So I'm going to go back to our background color and just get a little bit lighter around here so that doesn't look like it was bleeding there. Second coat on those packages with that red violet. I might do the writing and the Merry Christmas in this color too. Like I said, we'll trace that back on. We'll do some line work on the packages, stripes and polka dots and whatnot. Add bows to them. Okay, this coverage is pretty good on the second coat. And we're going to use similar colors for the packages now. We're going to use some of the dark green, some of the lime green. I'll just get a little flat brush. So the lime green, I'm just going to go in order here and see this cat is sitting on a little lime green package. So we'll just paint the background of these packages. And we'll see what needs a second coat. Now we've got the dark green, which is the Black Forest. A lot of base coating. It's not the way with all of our paintings. We're mostly base coating. A little bit of the Black Forest with some of your buttermilk to get that light green that we used on the leaf shapes. And that's this package down here. A little water. It's a little thick. Cover is nice though. We'll do all the base coating on the packages and the cat, then we can go and do the details on the ornaments and on these guys as well. While you have that color on your brush, if you find you need any touching up over of your leaf shapes, you can certainly do that. If you have, oh, that's a little, let's make it more to match. You know, if you've lost a little edge or to brighten up. So that one's a little see-through, so I could just do a little second coat. I think that's good enough. Okay, we've a couple more of that yellow ochre package, but you know what? That's, I'm going to do buttermilk for that with a yellow ochre ribbon. So let's just get a little fresh buttermilk. So this package we will shape here. Just a long rectangle shape. Have it more curved than it should be. Good enough. We'll do a second coat in a second, and then we've got it's kind of a lighter green. Let's just make up the color we had here, this lighter green, and we're just going to make a lighter shade. So it's still in that same family. It works still with that color palette. And we can do our second coat now, that lime green. I'm going to add a little white because I have a little pink to cover, and it's just not going to cover unless I get a little white in there first. And yeah, that works. And looks like some of the other colors are dried pretty well. This darker green, the Black Forest, second coat. We have stripes, like I said, and polka dots, so that will cover a lot, but I just want to get another coat of that on there. I kind of ran into that package there. Let me fix that up a little bit. If I just take the brush, wet it, clean it, I can pick up that green I accidentally got there. And a coat here of this mixture. Just a quick second coat, just covering up the streaky areas. And one more on that buttermilk, and then we can work on the cat. So now we have everything covered with the base coat. You can see a little bit of the maroon here. So what I'm going to do, let me just reshape this. I'm just going to add a little white to that, and that will help cover that little maroon patch, and I can always touch up with the buttermilk after. Okay, so the body, I'm going to get honey brown out now because that's a little bit darker than the buttermilk, and it's a better color for the cat's body. Might be needing a little white in that. Let's see. No, I'm going to do buttermilk. Keep with the color palette. Hang on, we'll take a little bit of honey brown and get a lighter tan shape color. It's very close to the buttermilk, but it's a little darker. The ears on this little kitty are dark brown, so we're just going to do where we see the lighter body shape. This little flying saucer shaped head. And we'll paint right over where that collar is going to go. We can fill that in on top of this lighter shade. Okay, the legs will paint right over because that's a dark brown. Got these little haunches here. The tail's dark brown too, almost a black brown really. We'll start with that traditional burnt umber, but whatever brown you have, if you need to darken it, just add a little black or Payne's gray to it. Okay. Lighten that face up a little bit. It's like a little football. Okay. Smaller brush for the details on that kitty cat. Now, the little snout has got the dark brown too, but we want that to be a little blended in. So why don't I do it now while that's a little wet? Like I said, the traditional burnt umber is pretty dark. It's funny, I've been using the Deco Art burnt umber, and it's amazing that the traditional is darker, more what I'm looking for some of the shades I need. So just in the middle of the face where the nose is going to go, this is still wet underneath, so that's okay. I don't mind the middle being a little washy, but what I want to do is just soften where the brown is meeting the tan. It might take a couple coats, so let's just get a little dark on there. Let that dry for a minute. But I can also just paint the little dark ears while I'm waiting. Again, you might want a little, I might go to a round brush for that. It's going to be a little easier to manage. Just a little detail brush. Not my tiny fine one, but it's got a nice point. It'll be a little easier to paint these ears with. And we'll give them a little highlight in the middle, but for now, maybe a little pink highlight in the middle. But for now, let's just get that shape. And while I'm at it, just get a little darker in the middle there. And the tail is dark, and as are the front legs. So let's get this tail. It's kind of a nice curve to it. And we'll do a second coat. The legs, they're just really 2 lines. The top again, like the face, I'm going to want to not have that harsh line. So I will just sort of blend that up a little bit just to break up that harsh line for now. We're going to go over a second coat because we want these legs a little dark. It's got a little back foot showing there, and then the little front paws are just almost like little balls. I'm going to kind of shape a little toes on them. And now we've got to let that dry so we can get it a little darker to how we want that to be, a darker brown. Let me find a little bit of silver metallic, because we're going to use that for some of the ornaments. So let's go back to the ornaments now. We will get a little detail on those, not a whole lot, but you remember those little ornaments had like little indents in them and sometimes designs and things. I think I will go, I dipped into white, but let me go back because I really want to use the buttermilk as my lightning color. It's just going to be just a scooch of the pink. It's mostly going to be just the buttermilk. That's a little bit darker than I'd like. Okay, so inside those pink ones, we're just going to paint a circle. Kind of maybe an ovally circle, whatever comes out to be like. But remember these ornaments that had a little indent in them? And then like a little starburst pattern sometimes. I mean, we can only get so detailed because they're so tiny, but just getting that little circle in there starts to get that look of those vintage ornaments. And we're going to do the same thing on the yellow ones, but I don't want to use the pink tinted. I will go back into maybe a tiny tint of deep ochre, but we're just going to do the top section of these two. Maybe a tiny bit more. I just want it to be on that same kind of shade as these guys. That's like, the bottom of that one got really big. Do I need a double thing there? Well, it's all right. We just put the circles just on the top. And okay, that's it for those guys. We put a little starburst in the middle there when that dries. So the little bells. Let's take the bells, and I'm going to use white to mix a little lighter shade of that blue. And I just want to light, oops, I just put my hand in that kitty's paws. Let's try to stay away from that. Okay, so on the right side, I'm just going to go down that bell with a lighter blue, and I thought that would be light enough. I think it is, actually. I think it is. I didn't know whether I had to lighten or darken it, but I want it to show up but not be pure white. And let's do them all at once because it won't take, we still have time to blend a little bit. So now I can actually go across the bottom too. Dry that brush off and we can just soften that in a little bit. And I want to just do a little bit of a darker shade along the other side. Do I have a darker blue here? I'm just going to grab a darker blue, a little bit darker. And almost like a little wash. Give it a little highlight, give it a little shadow underneath for that little clapper there, just down the left side. I have it pretty watery. I don't know if I need to go and actually blend that out. I think it's okay just like that. If it needs a blend, you can just soften it with your dry brush. And a little bit of a brighter white, just a little bit as a reflection over here on the right side. Okay. I'm going to take a little white now, actually. Kind of watery, a little bit, just thin. And I want to get right in the middle of our, because the white will be a little brighter now than the buttermilk, just to give it like a little sparkle and a little depth, a little white in the middle of those. So I still want, I know it's teeny, but I still want to maybe get an idea of a little starburst, but we'll see if we can. These are pretty small. And again, we're going to shade those and highlight them. So on the right side of that ornament, just take the color we used, which was the dragon fruit. I'm going to do white though for these highlights on the ornaments. And I'm just going to go down the right side and just kind of outline that with just a little lighter shade of the pink that we used. Kind of a little washy so I can sort of just blend it a little bit if I need to. don't want to lose all of my dark pink. I'm going to do the same thing down the side with, I don't know if the joyful pink is dark enough. I think we need to go with the red violet, but let's thin it down a bit. And just follow the shape on the left side. Okay. While I have that on there, maybe a little bit of a starbursty effect in the middle. These are super teeny. I don't know if that's gonna, if you had a real teeny brush, you can see I just went in the middle here and just did a little star shape, really thin down paint. And I did it with that color just because it was in my hand, but it does work. So I'm gonna make a little cross and then I just move a little few strokes. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, sometimes I have to check to see the view. Something you can see. And a little white highlight on the upper right, just because these are shiny, and even if I've lost it, and I think I have on some of my bells, just a little, maybe just a little dot and a little comma, maybe something on the clapper. Same on these guys, just a little dot, couple little dots, little dab. And it just gives them a little shine. Let's get a little bit lighter shade. We're just gonna do the same thing. A little bit of the deep ochre with some white. Maybe a little bit more white because that's really wanting that to show. So we're just gonna follow the shape of that ornament. That one kind of grew, like I said, but I'm not really worried about it. It's gonna look like what we want it to look like. Anyway, for a darker shade here, let's see, what would we use for that darker shade? Try that honey brown since it's out on our palette. We just want something a little darker. I know a burnt sienna would work, and that might be what we have to jump to because that's looking almost like the same color. Barely anything, just a tiny little dab. I'm going to keep the shadow colors more of a wash. So water, a little burnt sienna. Just down that left side. And when I'm doing this wash for the shadows, it doesn't seem like I really have to come back and soften it. They seem to be okay. You can see now they're really kind of coming alive. And with that really thin burnt sienna, I might just go and do some little centers. And I think it's going to be a little darker, sorry. A little, the burnt umber, because you can't really see it with that light color there. I'm using a pretty wet brush, just making that paint thin. We still need a little sparkle on these. Just a little white. Give it a little dab. Even on the bottom section could be a little dab. Somehow this white is just sinking in a little bit again on, because we were actually on the light side, but all right. Why don't we give them, I'm going to take a little silver. Let's see if it works for the little caps. I really need to shake this up a little more. I think the metallics seem to separate quite easily. And let's see, I guess it's been a while since I've used this. Let's, I just need to cut the, yeah, it's pretty dry there. Now this should work. As usual, I'm always scanning the whole painting as I go, and I think I may have to just with a little bit lighter of the buttermilk, maybe with white even, just a light touch. I can see the little linen-y looking design on the texture of the canvas, but I want it to be just a little, bring it up just a tiny bit. Okay, what were we doing? Oh, silver little caps here. So the little ornaments would just have a little cap on the top. You could just put almost like a little dab or a little, it's kind of like a little rectangle, but they're so small, a little dab will do. And let that dry. We'll put a little highlight and make a little loop. Okay, oh, you know what? We're going to do the top bit. So we're going to take that lighter pink again that we were playing around with the buttermilk and the dragon fruit. And like the ornaments, it has a little circle in the middle here. And we want to get a little highlight on one side. Try the red violet, which is what we used. But for the highlights, I like to add a little white to that. It's looking like white there to me. Let's try that joyful pink. It's a little tougher because we've got that similar in tone background. Let me just try a little white on my brush. Let's see. A little lighter around the very edge here. And then darker, we're going to have to use that red violet with a touch of black just to get it a little deeper. And I don't want it to look too black like we did on a little dark on some of those branches. See if I can't just get a slightly darker shadow there. All right, I'm going to put a little more black into that mix. Just a little darker. Oh, let me pull up my inspiration photo here for a minute. My computer sort of went to sleep. Okay, there we are again. I'm going to get a little lighter pink in the middle. On the top, just a little bit. I'm going to go with some white on that. I just want it a little lighter in the center. So that I can make a little starburst on there with my darker watery mix over here. And again, it's just a little star shape. I start with a little cross, and do the star shape. Could be almost a little darker there. And the center is the darkest. Okay, and then some little dots of white to make it got a little shine to it. I think that's a little heavy on the tippy top. Just gonna wipe a little of that away. There, I think that looks good. This is a little larger, that ornament on top, so maybe I can add just a little something around, maybe a little wash of white, just around this little circle. There. And a little pink over here. It's gotten a little bit dark. There. Okie dokie, I think that works. Let me hold that up. We've got to just do the little green ornaments. Oh, I didn't put any little silver tops on them either, so I skipped them completely. So a little silver top, little silver top, little silver top. And now just going to go down one side with a little bit of a darker green, and on the other a little highlight. So maybe that green, I don't know why I didn't do these when we were on the ornaments, but a little lighter shade of that lime green just down the right side. Maybe slightly lighter. And a little bit of a darker shade. We can just take that lime green, mix it maybe with a little bit of the not buttermilk, sorry, Black Forest. A little darker, let's go more Black Forest. It's a little tough on this one because it's just going to be the color of the background, really. So that's going to be a little harder to Maybe I'll just dab in since I have a little of that phthalo on there. Maybe that'll be just a little different shade. It still just blends in. I'm going to go and get my lime green in the middle again a little bit. I don't want to lose the whole shape because of the dark. Okay, all we need is just a little highlight, and I think we're good. Back into our white. Kind of on the upper right is where I'm doing them. At least starting it. While I have white here, I could just take, and not that you'd see the whole little loop, but I just kind of like the idea of a little loop. And I think it needs a little highlight. Sometimes when I do metallic like that, like metallic silver, it really just comes out looking like gray. So we're going to give them a little highlight on that top. And maybe a shadow, let's see. Just get the little loops on there. Doesn't have to be a whole loop. It could be kind of broken up because some of it might be holding it onto the tree and you wouldn't see the whole circle. Take a little of that white though, right on the right side of those little tiny caps. Let's see, I'm going to come a little closer so maybe you can see a little better of what I'm doing. So I did a little loop and then just a little line on the right side of the little silver cap. And then a little bit of a black wash on the left, just a little tad. Let's see. It's barely anything, and that's a little, that one kind of bled a little bit, but just a little bit of black on the, I have a little too much water in that mix. Yeah, it could almost be just a little line. I don't think I have white on that one. I think I saw one without a little white highlight. Now, no one would in a million years ever notice, but I noticed. So where was it? That one right there. Okay. So that is the ornaments. Let's finish up our little kitty. I've got to fix up where I smudged her leg. And, oh, here's the dark brown. A little bit in the middle here. I did a little bit, it actually looks good enough as far as a little bit lighter around the edge. I'm going to do a little second coat on the ears because I want them solid. Same with the tail and the legs. Keeping away from the tippy top because I want that to be a little lighter, which it is there. So I can just leave that. A little bit of a back foot. And then these little, they're almost like little ovals. Then I kind of make a little scallop for like toes, but again, it's hardly to be seen because they're not that big. And a little pink on the middle of their ears. Two little almond-shaped white areas for the eyes. I'm mixing a little bit of buttermilk again because I just want a little bit of a light triangle area in the ears. So it's just a little bit of a, let's see, where's Kitty's face? Oh, there, a little bit of a triangle in the, okay, eyes. So get a little white. And it's just around that little snout area. So we're going to just do little almond shapes. Letting that dry. If we need a second coat, we can, but it's covered pretty well. And they're so teeny. A little nose is just a little black nose. And it's going to not show up even that much because it's right on. So it's just a little shape. When I do a kitty cat nose, I just do it sort of like a little line like that. And it's just that. So I go across and then a little line down. Again, you hardly see it there. Maybe we'll give it a little, I didn't even do a highlight there, but okay, a little collar on this one. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that dark pink just to carry that around the painting. So that's the red violet. And I'm just going to do a simple little collar. I'm not even going to put a tag, but you could if you wanted to. I'm going to do a tiny bit of shading, just a tiny bit, so I can just separate a little bit of the haunches from the body. So I've got my brush flat, I'm just wetting it. A little bit of the brown, since we have that out. Pat it out though. You don't want it to be a lot. I had just a little too much water on that brush, but I'm going to just absorb some of that off. Yeah. And it's just going to be just a little shadow right here and right here. And I wiped my brush off just to soften the bottom there a little bit. And if it's too dark, you can just quickly soften it a bit, but I think that's fine. I see I might have put my hand in my tail again, so let's just touch up that little spot. Anything you need to. Really is kind of graphic. We don't really need to do any like outlining or anything on that. I can take a little bit of pink though, just a little bit, and give a little stroke in the middle here so that just looks a little rounded. And blue eyes on our kitty cat. I've got that nice bright blue out here that we use to shade our bells. I'm just going to put 2 little circles in the middle. When that's dry, we'll put a little line on the top and a little white highlight, and that is it. So it's just 2 little dots. You could do it with a little stylus if you had to. Whiskers. I wanted to get that little thin linery brush, and with the dark brown, thin it down a bit, with less harsh than black. And just some whiskers. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just, again, it's kind of like a graphic. I can go right into my black here now, I think, and just, again, keep that kind of thin. I'm only going to outline the top of the eyes. I'm not going to do all around. I'm just going to go right over the top, like that. And then the little white highlights. And same little brush. Just a little white highlight. Oh, and I can't leave that tail alone, can I? A little bow, I think, would have been cute around her neck, too, instead of that collar. That's an idea. All right, I'm going to touch up just on this buttermilk package where I can see through it still. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. And again, when we put the stripe, well, we just put a ribbon on this one, but maybe I'll do stripes or polka dots. Maybe will kind of cover up any of those little bits. I need to, it's going to bug me, the shape here, because I bowed out a little bit. So I'm just going to try to mix a little bit of the color I used behind. I know it's a little darker because I had a little bit of a shadow around there, but it's just going to, I don't know why, it's just kind of bugging me. Okay, and just on this side with the Black Forest. And here's just a matter of putting some patterns on these packages and then some bows. Pretty simple. So I just did, I'm going to get my flat, no, I'm going to use this little round brush here. I can flatten it out a little bit to get a stripe. And I want to just do some light pink stripes, but I'm going to go, I think I'm still going to stay with the dragon fruit, which is kind of thick now because it's been sitting out. And again, the buttermilk to get a lighter pink. Little water because that paint is a little thick at this point. And I'm just going to simply do some diagonal stripes on that package. Again, it's more graphic. I'm not going to shade or highlight those bits. I can get a little lighter if I need to. And the same stripes are going to go this way on this little package. And a little bit wider stripe on this bigger one, maybe a tad lighter. I'm going to kind of just paint them in, even though it's a little rough. I'm just sort of spacing them. Now I can go back and get them a little wider. Oh, I'm putting my hand in that. I can feel it again. I want these a little wider because it's a little bigger package. There is that. Okay. Rinse that off. I'm going to go to the tinier brush because on this little package, lime green, I don't think the buttermilk and the lime green is going to be light enough to show up. So I'm making a little white to that sour apple. And I'm just going to do a little cross hatch here. So stripes that way, and then stripes this way. Subtle, but still a pattern. Down here, I'm going to go with that straight Black Forest, which I think I need just a touch more because I do want it a little dark. And it's just going to be, I'm going to thin it a little bit. Just stripes to start. And then I'm going to just go down the middle of it. I need some polka dots now. Okay, so for this little one up here, you can just, I might just use a stylus. And I want that light color, which means I have to mix a little more to dip my brush into because I have nothing here that's, let's see. I just need a little thicker pile of paint to dip into. So let me mix that up good. And that way when I can stick my stylus in it, I get a nice little dot. And there we are, just polka dots. I'm going to make a little bigger polka dot on this package with my deep ochre. And I'm just going to make a bigger polka dot. It's a little bit bright. I want to, again, keep things kind of subtle. So I'm mixing a little bit, making it a little lighter. I can't really do anything with that one yet, but sometimes it could be just a little half circle on the side because it's sort of wrapped, the pattern's wrapped around the package. And I just want them, some little polka dots. Well, not little, a little there, but these are a little bigger. We can cover up that little bit of maroon that was driving me crazy. Some little half circles. And now if I can go over and just lighten that little one up a bit. And I'm going to do some lime green polka dots on this package. And then our packages have all their patterns. Oh, we need a little mouth on our kitty cat too. So we'll go back and work on that in a second. But I need some lime green right now. Subtle, but still you can see the pattern. All right, and then bows. Bows are simply just going to be done with the little round brush. Oop, I'm gonna just clean up. I'm making a big mess over here, and I've got the top of that silver there that's bleeding on everything. Okay, let's see. We're going to go into our deep ochre and kind of just make I think I need to give a little bit of the buttermilk to make that show. That's kind of a little bow there. Lime green. I'm going to do a lime green bow here on this package. But you know what? It's probably not going to cover real well unless I get it a little more opaque with a dab of white into that to make it just show on that little bit of a dark package. So I'm just going to paint some loops. So maybe like that. Just some loops on the top there. Maybe a little dab of white here, like a little knot. Like, let's see, highlight a few of those. Not loving it, but it's okay. They don't all have, this one is stacked underneath here. This one will put a bow on the front, so we could do, you know, a little ribbon, and then just some loops to make it look like a bow there. We have a lime green bow over here. Again, I should have done it at the same time, but I did not. Again, just loops. Oops, a lot of water on that brush. Loops, it needs to be lightened a little bit. White, just a little white. And I've kind of lost the shape, so I'll just go back with a little of the green to make it look like the tree behind. You can always add ribbons if you want. I kind of kept it again a little more graphic. I think I will add a ribbon. I don't really love that gold ribbon on top of that package. It needs a little something. So let's try this lime green mix. There, just like a little, it's wrapped that way. And maybe it's a lime green and a gold bow. Good enough, good enough. Okay, I think we're practically done. I want to texture up. I want to try the gold. Need a little kitty cat face, so a little black, a little mouth. I'm just going to come down from where the nose is and just do a little mouth like that. I really need to lighten up that nose a little bit or do a little highlight or something because it's really lost in there. So let me see if I put a little highlight on maybe one side. Because right now it looks just like one big nose. It's just going to make me crazy. So I'm just going to do a little highlight on the side. Just, it kind of puts it in the perspective of the size a little bit. I can even go around that dark brown and make that a little lighter. Let me take a little honey brown and maybe that will help too. So if I go around the nose with a little bit, yeah, that does it. It's just a little lighter. And while I'm at it, I can soften around the edge a little bit if I want to make it look a little bit like the way it fades out. It's a tiny little touch up, but it does work. I just took a little bit of a lighter brown around the nose. Now the nose really shows up a little better. I need to shade under at least again because the packages need to be sitting down. So I'm taking just water on my brush again. The Joyful Pink, but remember we do have to pat it out so it kind of blends a little. It just needed around the bottom. I think we stopped that maybe because we were letting something dry maybe. Under here we want to get a little deeper. That just makes it sit a little more. I've kind of lost my edges up here a bit because you know, we came out a little further with our elements and our leaf shapes. I can probably just get back in there in places. I didn't really want to do it on the green. Just getting a little dark in there, here and there. Okay, and I just want to do a little more texture on that background just to see what happens. Let me take a dry brush. We've got this section we were working here with the pink, and I lightened it with the buttermilk, but let me try just a tiny bit of white and see. It might not even work, but let's try it. It's not showing up much. A little more white, perhaps. I don't know if I really like the white with that. I did like that buttermilk, the softness it gave, but I'm just going to try a little section and see if it does anything. I just need to lighten up to show, but dry still. Yeah, I don't think it's going to look too chalky. I'm going to go back to my buttermilk. I'm running out of room here, so let me just use my table. Okay, that's good. It's very subtle, it's hardly noticeable. I just needed a little more texture. I don't know if you can see that on camera. I actually almost like doing these little strokes. It kind of gives it a cool effect. I want to sneak in here a little bit because that's sort of got a weird texture. There. It was just enough. Okay, let's see what we can do with this gold. I love the gold on the edges. I don't know if it's going to show up like it did on the card, but I'm just using some metallic gold. And it was almost like it was stippled. An old brush that, and I just don't know, you know what I might be able to use actually though? Let me do it with this, and then I've got some tubed gold I'm going to use, but let's just get this in. It's too much of a pattern, not loving it. I need a bigger, scragglier brush. I don't know. Again, sometimes the metallics, like this is just looking like yellow to me and not really shiny. But let's just get it on there, because sometimes I will base my metallic gold with, you know, a deep ochre or something, so. It just was a cool look on my card. Again, it was textured, but let's just get gold over them on the edge. Suppose you could do this with the sponge again, probably. That might work. But I do have this like puff paint. I've got, they're like, I'll bring them out and show you. I use them on my fabric painting, or even on my big under the sea paintings when I want something a little more textured. But I want to get this on there first. Covers up that little mark I made there. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm letting this dry a minute, but I really want more of something on there now that I look at this. So I think if I use like my scraggly, which needs to be, got some paint stuck in it, fan brush, I might get more of a texture, because from a distance I'm not seeing the texture I like in there. So let me just kind of get the blue off there. This when you have paint that's stuck in a brush like this, you could soak it in some alcohol and it really works great to recondition it. I'm not going to take the time now, but sometimes especially if it's more of a flat brush that I really want to be in better shape, I will soak it in a little alcohol, and then it loosens that up and I'm able to clean it. But let me get that a little wet. I don't want it to be too dry. Let's see. And I'm running out of room again here, but I don't want to get another palette out. So let me try to get a shade that will show up but not be too... I'm going to go real light to start because I don't know what it's going to look like, but I really want to see some texture. Yeah, that's more what I was looking for. You might like it or not, but I'm gonna go vertical first with some of that. Would have been ideal to do it maybe before all the elements, but and then I kind of want to go crossways, so it really is from a distance because I'm standing away from it a little bit now, looking like a linen fabric, if that makes any sense. Again, I'm just trying to recreate what I did originally in the cards, but the background was just too blah to me. I mean, you could have gone and done like polka dots or something. I just wanted something subtle. Oh, I can do a little in there with a smaller brush, maybe. Not that you really would notice. That's getting a little heavy now. I don't hate it though. How does it look on the camera? Let's see. And of course, sometimes I go too far. All right, so that gives you the idea of what I'm looking for. Okay, I somehow got a little silver on that brush, but now we did the sponge, or we didn't sponge, it could sponge, but we did the scraggly brush there. So what I want to do is have a little more texture and a little more gold. So I have, it's these scribble paints, these and the tulip are what I use a lot of times to add texture to my paintings, or especially on fabric painting, it's great. I have a feeling that this metallic gold is not going to be super bright. I love the idea that you get some texture. But let me try, this is a Peebo. I use this a lot when I paint glass, and I love it's it's got a nice little thin applicator tip, and it is a little more metallic-y than some of those more crafty paints. So let me do some dots here and show you the difference. If you can even see, can I bet? Let's see. So here I did it with the it's not tulip, there's a couple brands, the scribbles. And it just looks like a yellow gold, almost like an ochre. And then here I've got much more texture, although it's a little pointed texture, which I'm not loving, but it's more of a metallic gold. So I think what I'll do is I'll use a little of both. So let me put the cover back on this one for the moment, because I do like the shape that this comes out. These guys here, I don't know if it's just so thick on the paint that they're like little, it's like frosting. When you're frosting, it kind of gives you that little point. I'm not loving the little points. I think I'm going to stick with, you know what? I think I'm going to stick with this. It's not as metallic-y, but I like it better for this project. It's closer to the color of the metallic here. So you could just do this and stipple a little heavier if you want texture. So you could just, if you didn't have the thick paints like that, you could just go a little heavier and bring that in. And that's a nice look too. Kind of get a little bit softer as you go in. But I'm going to use this textured paint because I think it's kind of fun. It's a little, I don't know. I will go on, so I just finished some of my big Under the Sea paintings. And then at the very end, in a few spots, I'll take like these little paints in, in some brighter colors. They come in neon sometimes to accent some things. And I really like the iridescents because those go on. There's slick, which is solid coverage, and then there's like iridescence, which is a little transparent. So when you do that, it's not as bold as a line, but it just adds a little bit of shimmer, a little texture, and a little, just a little something to the paintings. So I do a lot on right now, especially because I'm mostly painting those Under the Sea paintings. But again, these are great and maybe made originally for fabric painting. So I will outline. I have actually this little jacket I just did. So this is a little jacket that has, you might have seen it, has a little Under the Sea pattern on it. But can you see some of the areas like in the hair where you've got this brighter orange and the scales and different things? I go on and I add that slick paint, and it's really, especially on fabric, it really does the trick. So anyway, so this is just the finishing touch on this. If you like it, you could go and paint, like I said, right to the end in the pink. I was just kind of recreating this like on the Christmas card design. Oh, you know what we didn't do is write Merry Christmas. No wonder it looks blank back there. And now I'm going to try to do that without putting my hand in it. Maybe I'll stop the video, let this dry, come back and do the Merry Christmas. So I don't put my hand in it. Because this paint takes a little longer to dry. You gotta let that sit a little bit without touching it. So if this was a card and they were using that embellished gold, that printing process, however that works, it would be much a brighter metallic. Could also take the stylus and bring some of that out for texture. So we'll do this, and we'll take a little minute. I'll go and let this dry, and then we just have to do the writing. And again, I'm doing Merry Christmas. You could do whatever you like. And I hope you enjoyed this. This is kind of a throwback to the mid-century modern look, which is kind of fun, where Siamese cats were a common icon. Those bun ornaments. Okay, we're gonna let this dry and we'll come back and do our writing. Okay, all we need to do is add our writing on now. I traced my Merry Christmas on, and I've got my little thin linery brush, and I'm just gonna use the red violet. I got some fresh paint out. I'm just gonna make sure it's thinned down enough to flow for me. You could do this with a Posca or a paint marker too if you felt like you didn't want to do the detail painting. And let me just get my inspiration photo here. Where is that? Okay. Of course I have it on my computer, but let me just find it. I have so many tabs open. It's the way I roll. Too many tabs open. Okay, there we are. Okay, so I'm just going to follow my lines. And this paint is at a nice consistency for me. It's on the thin side, but not thin enough so that the paint is running. And I'm just following along with what I've traced. I'm just going to even this out. That got a little thin there. Much easier now that the dimensional paint is dry there. I got off of my pattern a little bit. I'm not sure where my H went, so I'm improvising here. There we are, finished with our mid-century modern Christmas card design. But again, it could just be a painting. I just happen to have done it as a Christmas card. Okay. And when this is dry, well, good and dry, I will erase my little pencil lines there. And there we are. We are all done, guys. Thank you for painting again. Happy holidays.